I'm Susan Even, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I'm glad to welcome you to our Sunday service this morning at the UU Church of Columbia. We are a congregation striving to embody courageous love, radical welcome, and deep connection. And we are so glad you are here, bringing all that you are and all that you love and your deepest commitments to a more just world for all. Welcome. We're glad to be offering a live stream of our services and would like to extend an additional welcome to those of you joining online. We strive to make our worship accessible, and those of you who are using at home or using screen readers in person can find an accessible order of service at our homepage, uucomo.org. If you're on Zoom, we have also automated captioning turned on, and we will provide spoken descriptions of any photos or videos shown on the screen in person or online. For those of you with us in person, we invite you to attend carefully to the safety of all by leaving plenty of space, wearing your mask, and ensuring that you are greeting one another in a way that is comfortable to both parties. We will not be singing hymns together as an entire congregation, although humming is allowed and encouraged. We'd like to particularly welcome any visitors among us this morning and invite you to find the guest book after the service at an entry if you didn't already, or in the chat if you're with us online. We'd love to stay in touch with you about our goings on. Children and babies are always welcome in worship, and we also have a lively children's religious education program and nursery care for our youngest ones. All nursery caregivers and RE teachers are masked and vaccinated. Children will depart for their classes after our time of embodied prayer. If you have a joy or sorrow that you'd like spoken aloud during the service, you can write them on a yellow slip in the table to the left of me in our time of prayer. Or if you're online, please include your joys and sorrows in the chat now so they can be relayed later for the time of prayer. This morning's service has been provided to us by the UU Church of the Larger Fellowship to explore our UU theology of inherent worth and dignity and to learn more about their robust prison ministry program. Let us settle into this time and space together now with the help of our musician.
Good morning. So at the beginning of February, I started a songwriting challenge where I've been writing a song every morning. So that means I have a whole lot of new songs, and I'm excited to share a couple with you all today. I hope that's all right. This song is called The Ripple Effect. Beyond the limits of your own existence, far beyond your expectations, keep it going, gotta have persistence, can't explain it with explanation. Beyond the limits of your own resistance, far beyond your imagination, keep on going, gotta go the distance. Can you explain this inspiration? Yes, and you have more power than you know, and what you do has more power than you know. It's a ripple effect. You drop the pebble and watch the ripple grow. Beyond the limits of your own indifference, far beyond this divided nation, keep on going, yeah, and shine with brilliance. Set an example for the next generation. Yes, and you drop the pebble and watch the ripple grow. It only takes one to say no and take a stand. Before you know it, there'll be others there holding your hand. It only takes one to stand up against it all. Before you know it, there'll be others there to tear down the wall. It only takes one to say no and take a stand. Before you know it, there'll be others there holding your hand. It only takes one to stand up against it all. Before you know it, there'll be others there tearing down the wall. Yes, 'cause you have more power than you know, and what you do has more power than you know. It's a ripple effect. You drop the pebble and watch the ripple grow.
Good morning. Our opening words are from Aisha Hauser of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, lead ministry team. She is pictured in a video, a woman with light brown skin, curly dark hair, and glasses, speaking to us from an office with a chalice in the background.
Welcome. Welcome to the Church of the Larger Fellowship Worthy Now worship service. Worthy Now is a ministry of the Church of the Larger Fellowship that serves Unitarian Universalists that are incarcerated. This is one of the most important ministries of our entire faith. We honor that you are worshiping with us today, and we thank you for your support. Unitarian Universalism is a non-creedal faith. We do not dictate a mandated belief in a deity. Rather, we are connected through covenant and a commitment to justice and making the world a more equitable place. We gather to be fed spiritually and in community. We gather to remind ourselves we are here to care for each other. Welcome, friends and family. Our chalice lighting words are from Karishma Gottfried. Love loudly. Love loudly, spirit of light, of love, of all that is good and bad and in between. Give me the courage and inspiration to love loudly, to share my joy and compassion with others, to let them know how much I appreciate them. We all give and receive love, but loving loudly is one of the greatest gifts of all. And it is so simple. All it requires is one person who is willing to say to anyone and everyone, you are loved. You are worthy of love. You deserve to be loved. Spirit of life, help me spread love throughout my communities. Help me teach others to love loudly, so that it begins to circle around, so I can hear it too. I light our chalice. Blessed be.
And we now light our chalice, the symbol of our faith in the community that holds us and the bright flame of the human spirit that unites and calls us. Join me in our weekly words of affirmation printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. So I glanced at the calendar one day this week, and I saw it was March. And I was like, we made it! For a lot of us, February can be the hardest month, where we sort of fall into survival mode. After so much winter, there is still more winter. And it is too much cold, too much dark, too much bracing ourselves and just getting by. So here we are. We made it. What a glorious gift the sunshine was this week. So for our centering today, I want to take a moment to sit here on the cusp of not quite yet spring, but not still February. So breathe in and remember that feeling of bracing yourself to head out on a cold, blustery day, hands shoved in pockets, body tensed against the bitter cold, guarded, all the resources we can muster pulled inward to protect our core from the brutality of it all. Perhaps this is what a seed feels like, lying in the cold and frozen ground. And now, let out a long breath. And remember the sensation this week of sunlight on your skin. Let its brightness and warmth sink into you. Deeper and deeper with each breath. Feel it all the way down to your bones. And feel how it allows you to loosen, to unfurl, to germinate, to begin ever so slightly to turn outward. Imagine yourself opening to new possibilities, opening to new growth, opening to joy. Spring is almost here. Let our hearts be ready for it.
Now, during a moment of contemplative music, I invite you into our weekly ritual of stones and water. For those of you tuning in at home, I'd like to invite you into a moment of quiet contemplation, imagining the burdens of your heart lifted and held by our community as you listen to this music. For those of you who wish, with us in the room, you are welcome to come forward and take a stone representing any of the hopes and fears that you may bring with you this morning, and drop the stone in the water, which represents the embrace of our community. Those of you who wish to have your joy or sorrow read aloud may write it on a yellow slip at the table and put it in the basket. And as we also receive joys and sorrows submitted online from the live stream team. I now invite you into this contemplation.
The children will head downstairs now. I'll help you get sorted. We have a group Sunday, so most of the younger kids will be together. So let's pause for a moment in the greeting area, and I'll get you sorted to the class you belong in. And then we'll head downstairs, and we will sing the kids out with their song.
Live in joy, go in peace. Hold all our love as we part. Live in joy, go in peace. Hold all our love in your heart.
Anything back there? Do you have anything? No? Yeah. We now join in sharing the joys, sorrows, and prayers of our community. Let us take a moment of silence to center ourselves and prepare to hold one another in heart. We join our hearts with Martha Brownlee Dufek and her sorrow and prayer for the people of Ukraine. And we join our hearts with Betty Acree, whose husband, James, is recovering from complications of surgery and is mostly in bed. Thoughts and prayers are welcome. And then we share the joy with Robin Duplay for her brother and his wife, expecting their first baby this fall. Yay. And we join our hearts with those who choose not to speak their joy or sorrow, and we hold them in our hearts. We now conclude our time of prayer with a prayer from the Reverend Michael Tino of the Church of the Larger Fellowship Lead Ministry Team. It's a very long title. It's hard for me to read it every time. They are pictured on screen, a non-binary white person with shortly cropped dark hair and glasses and a colorful striped shirt.
Would you please join me in a moment of prayer, of centering for yourself? Spirit of life and love, God of many names and beyond all naming, we gather today in deep gratitude for all of the blessings of our lives, for the joys that lift us up, for births and for laughter, and for the ability to be together in community. And as we feel that gratitude in our lives, we ask that your presence be with those who are experiencing hardship and sorrow, those in our midst who are here despite great pain and grief and sickness, those that we love and that we know we are connected to, and those all across our world who we have never met, but we know are experiencing loss and hardship and grief and sadness and injustice. Today, may your strength especially be with those Unitarian Universalists to whom we are so deeply connected, who right now are behind the walls of prisons all over the world. May they know that they are connected to us. May they feel our love radiating out from us to them. In your many holy names we pray. Amen.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole.
Our reading this morning our readings are from the UU Voices Within Prison Walls in the form of writings collected by the Church of the Larger Fellowship Worthy Now Prison Ministry Program. They are presented in this video by Church of the Larger Fellowship Prison Ministry Administrator Beth Murray, a white woman with short dark gray hair wearing a colorful scarf. Slight technical snafu. That actually
When
was,
Michael, Aisha, and I were in discernment,
that actually was our anthem, which is Wind Summoner by Storm Craver, who's a member of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, incarcerated in Tennessee. And we're now going to try to cue up the readings. Next. Beth Murray is who we're looking for. Reflections will come after this.
When Michael, Aisha, and I were in discernment,
This is not the correct one, Larry. No, oh, it is. I'm sorry. He got it up there while I was looking at the other.
My name is Beth Murray, and I work for the Worthy Now prison ministry program at the Church of the Larger Fellowship. We'd like to let you know that the following testimonials from incarcerated Unitarian Universalists contains references to suicide and transphobia. Please take care of your hearts. From the Voices Within. Benjamin, incarcerated in Georgia, wrote in December after receiving a holiday card from the CLF. I was very close to suicide, and your thoughtfulness stopped me. Thank you. This is a very lonely time of year, and as a mentally ill person, the fight to prove my worth to myself is my endless battle. Thomas, incarcerated in Texas, wrote that he is a trans person in solitary confinement. He's held in solitary because it is the only place the prison facility can keep him safe. He's allowed outside 20 minutes every day. And what he misses most is seeing the trees, which are not visible beyond the barbed wire. A reading titled Buddy by John, incarcerated in Oklahoma. She arrived early Monday morning, homeless, forlorn-looking, carried by the maintenance worker who had found her. By afternoon, she had perked up and was attentive and active. In fact, she'd become comfortable enough that it seemed she liked being held, but that may have been because of the air conditioning and her lack of feathers. Still, she would nestle down in my cupped hand and go to sleep. By evening, she was exploring her new surroundings energetically, scurrying around the room, exercising all her muscles. Her appetite bordered on ravenous. When darkness fell and she settled in for the night in my left shoe, the world seemed at peace. Apparently, that's the way she died, peacefully during the night. There was no indication of any problems when she nestled herself into my shoe, and I checked on her every time I awoke. Few will miss this awkward, ragged-looking, not yet fledged baby starling, but I will. Buddy was loved for a day, if only by me. But that's more than some beings on this planet get, and she brought joy to several people in that short time. I suspect that her mother grieves her missing child. I know I do. But I also know that I was blessed by this little time that our lives touched. I hope she was as well. John died in November 2020.
We now share reflections from Church of the Larger Fellowship staff. First, from Christina Rivera from the lead ministry team, a woman with light brown skin, dark hair, and glasses, sitting in front of a wood background. The second reflection is from prison ministry manager Sir Elbert, a man with brown skin, dark dreadlocks pulled back from his face, and wearing glasses and a yellow plaid shirt.
We also celebrate Abolition, the grandmother of U.S. resistance movements. Black and white abolitionists perfected the speaking tour, the rally, the boycott, and cultivated leadership for later struggles such as the suffrage and labor rights. They also created the clandestine underground movement called the Underground Railroad, which has been noted by some historians as one of history's most intricate networks of conspiracy. The railroad, a widely cast network of aid stations, for the specific purpose of helping enslaved people escape, helped to free between 40,000 and 100,000 people. Many conductors were Black, such as Jane Lewis, a Black woman of New Lebanon, Ohio, who was known for her heroism in regularly rowing escaping enslaved folks across the Ohio River. I imagine the cold mist on the river as she rowed, steering her precious cargo through the moonlit waters. Such courage, duty, and love. For some, Unitarians or Universalists, slavery was incompatible with their belief system. An excerpt from a protest against slavery by 173 Unitarian ministers published in 1845 stated, "By our political, commercial, and social relations with the South, by the long silence of Northern Christians and churches, we have given the slaveholders reasons to believe that it is only the accident of our position which prevents us from engaging in this system as fully as themselves. Our silence, therefore, is upholding slavery. Our silence, therefore, is upholding slavery. And we must speak against it in order not to speak in its support. We contend for mental freedom. Shall we not denounce the system which fetters both mind and body?" So how does this relate to our moment? As the principle of Sankofa tells us, history is now, right? We are a part of it, and we must use what we've learned from it to move forward in optimal well-being. First, we may draw courage and inspiration from these examples and witness the parallel to our times. Our struggle for abolition continues. The American criminal justice system holds about 2.3 million people in over 1,800 state prisons, 110 federal prisons, about 1,700 juvenile correctional facilities, 3,100 local jails, 218 immigration detention facilities, and 80 jails held in native country, as well as in military prisons, civil commitment centers, state psychiatric hospitals, and prisons in the U.S. territories. And the inequities are extreme. Despite making up close to 5% of the global population, the U.S. is nearly 25% of the world's prison population. And the rate of incarceration is much higher for Black, Indigenous, and people of color than for white people, despite comparable rates of offense. Also, together with the federal government, over 4,100 corporations profit from mass incarceration in the United States. Because, as one of our local leaders here in Akron says, Demario Cooper, reminds us that the U.S. is addicted to free labor. And the reality is that the mass incarceration system we have in this country is an extension of the slave labor system of the antebellum era. Prisoners producing everything from park benches to toilet paper, to microchips, to ghoulishly, even police and prison guard uniforms. As we navigate the ways to combat this system, we remember our ancestors like Jane Lewis, rowing over the river, rowing through the anxiety, rowing through the worry, rowing through the struggle, and rowing toward a brave space. We can draw inspiration from the ways that UU history speaks to us through this moment. The struggling for more equity is part of our tradition. We have been part of a progressive movement for longer than the lifespan of this country and have consistently been on the forefront of social change and innovation. In my own church here in Akron, Ohio, the ancestors of my congregation hosted the second Women's Rights Convention. They're at the Universalist Old Stone Church. Former slave Sojourner Truth electrified the gathering with her innate I Am Woman speech. I wonder sometimes, what was the board meeting like before that convention was convened? What were the worried comments? What were the concerns of the congregation? Was there a vote held? Was there a sigh of satisfied relief when the motion was passed? That's a history that we in Akron are still working through. And yet, that question, it remains in all of our congregations. And I think it's important for us to remember that, again, abolition is the grandmother of our movement. Abolition is the goal. The U.S. is a settler colonial corporation designed to extract labor, land, and resources from Black, Indigenous, and people of color, but abolition is the central and most direct way to counter that. I believe that this moment represents a renewed focus on racial and social justice and human rights. And I also sometimes see a kind of compartmentalizing of causes, especially in mainstream liberal and progressive white-dominated spaces and institutions. People feel like, well, I'm doing something because on Sunday I go to my food justice ministry, Tuesday is the Black Lives Matter rally, Wednesday night is yoga, and Friday I'm making phone calls to elect a straight white male Democratic candidate who rails against defund the police. We need better. And we need to understand that when we are talking about Free Palestine and Black Lives Matter, we're talking about ending a whole system, not just the ones that make us comfortable. And here in the US, the slave system is still in power. Our children are calling us to an equitable future, like our hymn, The Fire of Commitment, from the dreams of youthful vision, one not imagined by slavery, and yet imagined by what our world can be when we all live with the idea that we have worth, we have dignity, and that our values and our actions must reflect the values and actions of all of us, not just one culture. We have a duty to provide our children and our future the tools to accomplish this. And I believe that together we can. Thank you.
We'll now share an introduction to the Church of the Larger Fellowship Prison Ministry Pen Pal program, which includes how to sign up if you're interested. Pictured in the video are an introduction by the Church of the Larger Fellowship Outreach Director, Tanner Linder, and sharing from Pen Pal participant, Eileen R. Tanner. And I have now gone out of order because it was Violet's turn. So we'll wait for that invitation until Violet has a chance to sing her song.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear.
All right, we'll now have the introduction to the Prison Ministry Pen Pal program. Pictured in the video are an introduction by the Outreach Director, Tanner Linder, and sharing from Pen Pal participant, Eileen R. Tanner is a white man with brown hair and a blue and white spotted shirt. Eileen is a white woman with short white hair and glasses. Also on the screen is the Pen Pal sign-up information that we have also included in your order of service.
I'd like to introduce you to Eileen Raymond. Eileen is a Free World Pen Pal who joined our prison ministry program in 2013. She was passionate about prison reform and wanted to be the light to someone experiencing the darkness of prison. Shortly after she joined, she was matched with John, one of our members currently living in a Texas prison. And as she began to build relationship with John, she discovered that this program, this relationship she was building, it wasn't at all what she expected. And so I'd like us to hear directly from Eileen about how that experience has transformed her, how it's changed her, and what she's learned from John and learned about herself. Let's hear from Eileen.
I became interested in CLF's prison ministry almost a decade ago. Prisons have been a cottage industry where I live in northern New York since the 1980s. As I thought about the men and women, mainly from New York City, who find themselves assigned to prisons up here, 8 to 9 hours from their families and often in solitary confinement, I thought how difficult it must be to be cut off from family and friends. Since my life motto has always been, just because I can't do everything doesn't mean I shouldn't do the one thing I can do, I applied to Worthy Now to become a pen pal to someone incarcerated in the United States. I was paired with John, a young black man incarcerated in Texas. When I tell friends that I have a pen pal in a Texas prison, they seem surprised and curious. Why? What do you write about? And I have to admit that I too wondered what to put in that first letter. I'm a white retired college professor living a comfortable middle-class life here in Canton with my wife. What could I possibly have in common with this young man? Like any new venture, the way to start is just to start. I told John a little bit about my interests and activities and asked him what he was interested in. I soon learned that he likes to write. After he shared a few poems with me, I decided to type them up so he could see them in print. To date, John has shared literally hundreds of poems with me. When he asked about how to find poetry contests that he could enter, I helped him prepare the entries for several significant national contests. Let me share a poem he shared with me. I have a vision. Rain pours like a falling cup, drenching the foundation of my heart, sogging me to the very core. The rays of the sun dry me up, cracking like fault lines in the earth. Scorched beyond repair, my soul is sore. Sullen and put out by my world, wishing to be the source of good deeds, longing for a way to promote global happiness. Equal rights for humankind, race or creed, boy or girl, peaceful nations and unions for our seeds, letting our actions, not religions, display righteousness, living with differences by understanding, judging none, learning to love and accept all, bonding together for the common goal. Create ways for outreach and start helping, holding ourselves accountable. We will not fall. It starts by a vision. This could be a global goal. One thing I have learned is that my idea that I would be helping my pen pal was way too limiting. 5 years ago, my son was tragically killed. When I finally wrote John about why I had not written recently, he responded, I'm very hurt to hear about Warren. I truly understand life isn't meant to be this way. Children should bury parents in old age, not a parent burying their child. Eileen, I'm very sorry. I know the anger that comes with death and all the what-ifs, as you spoke of. I'm confident you will not turn over to the dark side. But even you will be weak at times. And that's okay. As human beings, we are entitled to own our emotions. I won't tell you it'll be okay, and you'll move on. Because you won't and aren't supposed to. Never let Warren go. He belongs to your heart. You can learn to embrace him, even through death. My journey with Worthy Now has expanded my awareness of our interdependence more than I can ever expected. I set out to bring light to a fellow human being, and I ended up learning what true friends do for each other. As I minister to John, he ministers to me. Worthy Now makes all this possible by supporting free world participants like me, but even more importantly, by facilitating the growth of our more 1,000 members serving time in our country's prison system. That's why I support Worthy Now, and I invite you to join us in this ministry in whatever way you can.
Now is the time in our service when we join in the spiritual practice of generosity as one way that we can care for each other and our community, remembering that it is by sharing and supporting one another that we feel most human. We are nearing the end of our annual giving campaign when we invite our members and friends to reconsider their gifts to the congregation in the coming budget year. Our work is entirely funded by your gifts. And this year, we are asking families who can do so to consider an increase as we recover from the financial challenges of the pandemic and pursue our exciting mission of ever broader welcome and deeper connection. This morning, we'll show you a video produced by our generosity team, sharing why some of our members give to the congregation. Pictured in the video are Jeff Ordway, a white man with brown hair, Dottie Matthews, a white woman with curly gray hair, Stacy Pottinger, a white woman with short hair dyed maroon and blonde, at least at the moment of filming. Excuse me, and Ginny Winter, a white woman with medium-length blonde hair.
Giving to the church has helped me identify better who I am. And it goes back to that idea that by giving to the church, I give not only of my money, but also of my time and my energy. And in those moments, I've been able to learn a lot more about myself and to identify more fully who I am.
I think our church makes Columbia a better place to live and to raise families and to challenge existing paradigms, and I think it makes this place more loving.
I love that UUCC is personified or characterized in the community as, oh, that's that church, that's the social justice church. Oh, that's that church where, you know, if there's a rally or a statement or some movement to cause something to happen that's going to make our world a more equitable and loving place, UUCC, I know we're not alone in that, but we're definitely along the forefront of those people that are helping to push those changes.
And then I think in the last couple of years, just over the pandemic and everything, we have felt, I have felt really supported just by being able to reach out and talk to you or send in, anything that was going on and have it, joys and sorrows on the live stream and stuff that's been really nice. And the Chalice Circle has been a really great way to meet and get to know, just a handful of people a lot deeper. And it's been a lot of fun too. I mean, we have a really great time coming to the church.
Well, I'm the fifth out of 6 kids, and my dad was a minister. So the concept of giving and giving back and giving more to the world than you take from it is something that was instilled in me from as long as I can remember.
But every time we give to UUCC, it feels so direct. It feels so like I'm certain that these dollars are going to go to benefit the good of my community and the world. I'm getting teary about it because it just is so real. So, you know, we're doing this campaign to help us be a truly welcoming environment where we can change the building in order to actually accommodate the needs of everyone we want to welcome. Those things feel just so wonderfully joyful to be a part of, even if we're just a small part of it, to be able to contribute and help bring this vision of what our 7 principles, what Unitarian Universalists believe, that by giving to UUCC, I'm actually helping bring those about by our dollars, by our time, by whatever efforts we can put in.
Before Isaac and I were members of the church, the first, campaign for getting pledges and everything, I read somewhere in one of the pieces of literature that $15 was totally fine. If you wanted to give $15 a month, that was absolutely, it wasn't said like that. It wasn't said like it's absolutely acceptable. I think it was given as an example or something. I know that it was said in such a way that it made me think, oh, okay, because we didn't have a lot of extra income at the time. And I remember thinking, I can't do $25 or $50 a month. That's just not going to happen. But when it felt like that 15 was viable and important, and I was able to, register and not feel like I was, not contributing enough or was less than, a person giving $200 a month. I was celebrated just like everybody else was celebrated. And that just felt really wonderful. And then our situation has changed and we've been able to contribute more, and that feels really good as well. I know, my job is to ask people to give money to my organization. And so I know what it's like on both ends, but now that I've had the experience of giving and being able to give more, I know how amazing it feels to give, and it's really nice.
We actually sat down with the kids last night. We made our pledge last night, and we explained to the kids the church's needs, and but that we were at a place where we couldn't give anymore. And so we had a talk as a family about ways that we could all give a little bit in order to give more to the church. So for example, the kids talked about getting rid of like the Disney Plus subscription, and so that we could give that money each month to the church. And we talked about giving up a monthly meal out so that we could give more to the church each month. And that felt really, really good as a family to decide how we were going to do that and how we were going to increase our gift, because we really didn't have it in our budget. But we did have other things in our budget that we can give up. So I think that it felt good to do that as a family, because it's not something we don't talk about money a whole lot with the kids. But that felt really good.
How does pledging to the church feel for me? I want to say I feel good about it, but I almost feel like it's my obligation, because the only way that our church exists, the only way that it continues to do the things that it needs to do, is if it's fully funded. And if I'm not willing to put my wallet where my mouth is, then there's no possible way that this place can continue. And so therefore it's an obligation, but it's also one that feels good to me.
We are trying to live our faith in how we make choices in our lives. And I love being a part of a place where I don't have to hang my head at all. I can say, yes, UUCC, I'm part of that congregation. You ought to come.
We are entering the final week of our campaign and still need to hear from about half of our usual givers. So if you've been waiting to turn in your pledge, now is the time. As we take our offering for the work of the church, we invite those of you who are ready to turn in your pledge to fill out the pledge card on your order of service, fold it in half, and put it in the offering basket alongside any other offerings. You could also go online right this moment and on your phone and fill out your pledge card at uucomo.org/pledge.
unseasonable winter that lasted for years. Stuck in our houses, stuck facing our fears, with nowhere to run to and nowhere to hide. They say we're in this together, but you gotta take a side. So I take a side for justice. Yes, I'll take a side for peace. 'Cause it doesn't feel right to fight anymore. All together we can find relief. Running low in compassion, what's happened to us? When hate is in fashion, it's hard to know who to trust. Afraid to stay open. Do you believe anymore? When we're living in our boxes, too scared to open the door. So I'll open the door for justice. Yes, I'll open the door for peace. Oh, 'cause it doesn't feel right to fight anymore. All together we can find release. Yes, I'll take a side for justice. Yes, I'll take a side for peace. 'Cause it doesn't feel right to fight anymore. All together we can find release. Yes, together we can find relief. Won't you help me find relief? All together we can find relief.
Our closing words are from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the stakes are very high, and the path is never clear. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Go in blessing and be a blessing to a world that needs our care. Let us share our benediction.
May we give of hand and heart. Let us share.